Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much, Amy. And good afternoon, everybody. I'm really happy to be here. Has everybody had a good day so far? Yeah? Yeah? And our keynote was amazing. I was sad that I had to sneak out a little bit early. But without further ado, I am going to turn it over to the panel, and they are going to go right down the line here and introduce themselves.
Thank you so much, Heather. Hi, everybody. It's great to see you today. My name's Janine Evanish. I'm owner of a small business, Heaven and Earth Gift Shop and Cafe. And also, I have a coaching company, Catalyst Coaching. And I love the topic, which is why I'm here to talk about dreams. I'm a certified dream manager, and I've been working on my own dreams and other people's dreams since 2013.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Kiesinger. Again, it's wonderful to be here with all of you. I hope you've had a good day so far. I am founder of CEK Communication. I'm a retired university professor turned leadership development specialist. I'm also an executive coach and a speaker and author. It's good to be here. I have work that I love, and everything that I've done up to this point has required a massive leap of faith. So this is the panel for me.
Wow, they're all amazing. Hi, I'm Michelle Pack. I'm a financial services professional with New York Life. That is my most recent career. My focus is on empowering women and men through financial literacy. Thank you so much for being here today, and I hope you find some value out of it.
Great. Thank you guys so much. And before we get started, I want to know how many of you have had dreams? Big dreams, scary dreams, dreams that have maybe felt unattainable or too far out of reach, right? All of us, every single one of us. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and I think we can all relate to just how scary that can be and how any help we could get would be wonderful, right? So to start off, as I said, how many people have had big dreams but struggle to start? So I'm going to turn it over to the panel here. What is the first actionable step that you would recommend in turning a vision into a plan? I'll start right here with Janine.
Okay, thank you so much. That's such a good question because I think it's fun to dream and dream and dream and dream, but that can get old. There's a saying, hope deferred makes the heart sick. So I think our hearts can get sick if we just, think about things but don't actually do them. But one of the important things to get your dream started is to think about the why. As Dominique mentioned, that pain can lead to your purpose. And so you want to think about why you're doing something. And a lot of times to get started, I try to think about just, a bunch of different steps that need to be taken and then try to pick the logical first step. So when I was opening Heaven and Earth Gift Shop, I was thinking I would be renting space, and I learned to talk with another person who was working in the Guild Studios. That was the type of gift shop I wanted to open up. And so she was telling me more about the building, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I thought I'd be renting space, but then I thought we could use the building for more than one purpose also. So anyway, one thing led to another. I ended up getting the blueprints of the building, and my husband and I both have our businesses in the same building now.
I would say that if you have a dream that you want to bring to life, start telling as many people as possible about it. It will hold you accountable for taking action. It allows you to take a lot of ownership over the dream that you're holding, and it helps you to create the vision. The more I spoke about what I wanted to do, the clearer the vision became. And one mantra that I love to live by is, what you talk about, you will bring about. So be careful of what you put language to. What you talk about, you will bring about. So talk about it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with Christine more. You have to be very clear on your vision. I like to say become obsessed with your passion, like whatever your dream is, become obsessed with it. That doesn't have to be a bad word, right? It can be a good obsession. As far as actually turning it into an action item, for me, the clarity comes first, and then I make myself small promises, and I put it on paper. I talk to people about it, but I put down little action steps, and if I can check off one little thing that day, I consider that a win. It could be getting out of bed that morning, brushing, actually putting on clothes that aren't just for Zoom, maybe, or something like that. So, and then the big part for me too, and to get it going, is to celebrate the little wins, not to forget about that.
That's great, Michelle. And that leads us right into an example of when you turn something personal or even a professional ambition into reality. What strategies made the biggest difference, and maybe an example of one of those times where it was turned into reality. Michelle, I'll go to you.
Okay, so as I mentioned before this, I didn't, like, my passion growing up wasn't to be a financial advisor. Kind of shocking. What 8-year-old isn't like, yay, investments? But I did I went to college and I got my degree and I went to corporate America, and along the way somewhere I was like, this isn't fun anymore, what I'm doing, I'm not loving it. And I looked around and I said, what do I like doing? And I said, well, I lived in California at the time. I'm like, I love being outside of the beach every day and I love dogs. And so one of my first businesses that I started for myself was a pet care business. And what I did to create the reality of it, I quit my job, I burned the bridge. I printed up little business cards. And I just walked around and going, hi, do you have a dog? Hi, do you have a dog? Hi, do you have a dog? Want me to walk it? And I grew the business to over 1,000 people, over 1,000 clients. I had it for about 10 years. I was able to sell it for a very good profit to move on to my next passion. But I burned the bridge. I took the action, and as terrifying as that was, that terror barrier that I hit, I liked to remind myself that on the other side of fear is usually what we want. And that there's a very fine line between, fear and excitement. And is it making me feel excited or fearful? And they can be the same thing.
Michelle, I love that. On the other side of fear is what we want. I think we should all remember that a little bit. I'm going to write that one down. Yeah. Dr. Christine, I know you have a really good example of turning a dream into reality.
Yeah, and I don't even know that I knew it was a dream at the time. When you're in academia, that is not a place you're encouraged to leave, especially if you have tenure. And I remember I think it was in 2018, I was teaching a group of university students, and out of my mouth flew the words, I am retiring at the end of this semester. And I knew it with such certainty when I heard myself speak the words, and in that moment, I could see in my mind's eyes doors opening. Now, I was doing some work with organizations at the time, and I really enjoyed it, but I never had quite imagined burning the bridge. Talk about burning the bridge. I had colleagues and mentors say, you are committing professional suicide. You don't leave tenure, and I did. And I haven't looked back. And for me, it was the deepest trust in my intuition in that moment of what really felt like an epiphany. Was an epiphany. So trusting. And after I spoke the words, I did realize that, there was a vision there that I hadn't really attached myself to because I was afraid to imagine doing something different. But out came the words, and the reality set in. Yeah.
Janine, do you have an example for that?
Sure. I could just pick something really small. That was one of my first dreams. That was a lot of fun. I grew up outside of Philadelphia, New Jersey, and between here and there, driving back for family, we drive on the Schuylkill Expressway. And I would get to look down and see the Fairmount Park and see all the people having fun, jogging and riding their bikes. And I passed it so many times. I'd be like, I really want to ride bikes around Fairmount Park someday. And so I asked my husband for my birthday, but it was only like within the last maybe 10 years. I was like, for my birthday this year, I really want to go and ride my bike around Fairmount Park. And so we did that as a family. We rented bikes, and then we went to Pietro's in Center City and had pizza. So it was a great memory.
That's great. And again, it's not only about these giant dreams, it's even the small ones that maybe are not completely unattainable, but you're working towards getting to. And I think that's a really good point. So speaking of that, how are we setting realistic goals, but still dreaming big? It still can be this really big, scary dream, but we want realistic goals in order to get there. We can all get overwhelmed, maybe even discouraged. Does anybody want to give some examples on how we can set realistic goals in order to achieve those dreams? Go ahead. First. Michelle, why don't you start for us? No fighting.
I go back to, has everyone heard the expression, how do you eat the elephant? Right? You eat an elephant one bite at a time. I think, like I mentioned before, I think it goes back to, there's a difference between a realistic goal and a vision and a dream, right? The dream is the big picture, the vision. And it can be so terrifying, like I mentioned before, and so overwhelming. And so how do you, breaking it down can be difficult. But if you really focus, again, on that vision, and then when obstacles come your way and you say, is this in line with my vision? Is this in line with that dream, with that passion that I have? You can say yes or no. And if it's a no, let it go. And if it's a yes, say it's not an obstacle, it's an opportunity. And it's an opportunity for me to grow to the person that I need to be to achieve that dream, rather than having to continuously be afraid of what's next, I think. Was that even the question?
I mean, yeah, it was. It was your way of
the goals,
of
and that's
getting to those realistic goals.
And they have to be, and they.
Yeah.
What's realistic? Too. That's the other thing. So it's a mindset thing, right? Like we can tell ourselves whatever story we want. Is that a realistic goal? Well, Christine quit her professional, career as a professor and started her own business. Is that a realistic goal? Apparently, yes. So look for proof. Look for proof. If it's something you want to do, did someone else do it first? It can be done. Look for proof.
Now, the second part of that is also, how do we avoid getting overwhelmed or discouraged? So, Dr. Christine, do you have any insight on that one?
I think it's similar to the way that you opened, which is making sure that you're very connected to the why. Why am I doing this? So whenever overwhelm would settle in for me, because the dream can be really overwhelming. And if you allow yourself to get swept up in that, you get paralyzed. You're not moving it forward. And so always connecting back to the why. Why am I doing this? And making sure that opportunities along the way that come in are aligned with what it is you're trying to do. So if I say yes to something, especially when I was in the building phase, it had to be aligned with where I wanted to go. So that idea of begin with the end in mind was very important, right? And are all of the steps leading me to the end that I actually see? And also be very open to the idea that how you think you're going to get there isn't necessarily how you're going to get there. There will be detours along the way that will be very interesting and perhaps lead you in a way you never could have imagined. And when that happens, those detours provide us with a lot of information and sometimes even new opportunities.
Sometimes it's not easy to go with the flow, but we need to follow those things, right? Just like you thought initially that you were going to be renting your space, and then that changed, and here you are looking to purchase a building. So it was not necessarily a detour, but a different path, right? So here's a question with a little bit more of specific things that we're doing to achieve those goals. Do we have any ideas on time management and how we are having that play a role in the action planning process? Does anybody have any tools or methods that have really worked for you? Janine?
Sure, I'd be happy to take that one.
Great.
Thank you. Yes, I love time management. So usually on Sunday nights, I look at my whole week. So I do my planning weekly, and I make a list of really like everything that's on my mind, because sometimes I don't know, my dishwasher's been making a really loud noise, and sometimes getting the dishwasher fixed is going to bring me the most peace. And then I can move on. I know I need to keep my home organized, and then I feel like I can venture out and be more adventurous with my goals and my dreams. So I have blocks of time saved for different types of activities. So in the morning hours, it's about faith, fitness, and getting my head straight. And then I go into the action of actually getting the work done. So I have time saved for like friends and family, time saved during the week for my husband and I have been doing like a financial review every week. And also for a long time, to make sure I can, because we have to take care of ourselves, right? I know that we were talking about overwhelm, that it can get stressful working on these dreams. And so making time for good self-care, a hot bath or pedicure, manicure, whatever. So
We all have our own things, right?
exactly.
Dr. Christine?
My favorite method for time management is I work in sprints. I work in 20-minute sprints. I'm writing a book right now, which is a huge task. And I have to work in 20-minute sprints or it's not going to happen, which means I set the timer. I work very hard for 20 minutes. When that timer goes off, I do something else. And then I will come back. That isolated, protected time, you can do anything for 20 minutes. It really works, and it really helps me to make progress. The other thing I think related to time management for me is having some sort of sovereignty over my inner critic. Be very, very mindful of what you're saying to yourself. When I allow that inner critic to take over, any tool, any strategy just doesn't work. So that comes before any sort of time management tool or technique, is what's happening in here, what am I saying to myself, and trying to get my, take reign over that voice.
I don't know that I have much to add other than I just remind, because I agree with both of you, I do all of that. I just keep reminding myself, if I say yes to something, I have to say no to something else. So is what I'm saying yes to what I want to do? And 2025 for me became a year of self-care. And if someone asks me to do something and it's not a heck yes, it's a no. And I've had to scale back on some things that people have asked me to do. I've had to learn to say no. And I'm a lot happier for it, and I've got a much better balance in my life this year than I have in the past.
I'm going to go off the rails for a second here. And how hard was that to learn to say no? Because I think that is what derails most of us from these big dreams, because we take on so much and then there's no more room left.
It was a lot easier after menopause. Once I started to give myself grace, it wasn't as hard. And once I started to remind myself that for every one of you sitting in this room, for all of us, there is someone looking at you going, wow, she's amazing. How does she do what she does? Or what he does? And they're impressed by you, right? So stop setting these insanely high bars for yourself if that's not really what you want. What are you working for? Are you happy? So learning to say no came for me a lot easier when I started to say, I matter. I put myself first. I've done, and I will continue to do for others, but I will do it from the right place. Mm-hmm. And so it's just a lot of self-exploration of knowing who I am and what I want, and now saying no to the wrong things is much easier.
Yeah.
And I think saying no is a complete sentence and practicing that no, period, and let yourself sit in that silence rather than, and this is why. Mm-hmm. This is the explanation. This is the story. This is the reason. No is a complete sentence. It takes practice.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorites.
I think we all struggle with that. I mean, I think I see everybody in the room was nodding when you brought that up about saying no. So I was like, let's talk more about that, because none of us are very good at it. And at first, anyway, You are. Yeah, now you are. Well, I believe you. I mean, practice makes perfect, right? So I believe you now. All right, so we'll get back on track here a little bit. So how about some tips to stay motivated and accountable for chasing these big dreams when progress might feel slow? I'm never going to get there. So Janine, I'm going to start with you on that one.
Well, I love to work with other people. I work with a business coach, I work with a personal trainer, and I have a spiritual mentor. So these people really help me in, these areas. You could have a buddy that you walk with, and setting up goals for myself is really helpful. I know if I have the same thing that's been carried over week after week after week after week, that I'm procrastinating on it and I'm afraid a lot of times. Sometimes it's sending an email. Honestly, I've hit that send button and I've been so afraid. I probably asked for help or reached out to someone that I feel intimidated by. So, but those are really, some of the most exciting things too, is when you take those risks. So I think motivation, it's important because it can be very easy to get just, stuck in a rut. So I think that's why we're talking about dreams, because we want to get out of our ruts.
Yeah. Michelle?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand what success is too. I think Dominique kind of mentioned this. For me, success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal or ideal, right? That's Earl Nightingale saying it's my favorite definition of success. So as we're going along, as we're progressing, if you're doing one thing towards that goal, celebrate the heck out of that, right? Like, yay, I am awesome. This is amazing. Celebrate every little thing along the way. We forget as people, as women, as leaders, everything, to celebrate ourselves. Sometimes we're so focused on celebrating our team members or something like that. Celebrate yourself. Celebrate every little win, because once you get that dopamine hit from celebrating that win that you've done, it pushes you forward. You want to celebrate it again. It could be even give yourself a treat. Like, if I lose 10 pounds, I buy myself something really expensive. I've got, I don't have a lot of expensive things. I've got a few more to go. But that's what can motivate you. If you can really focus on celebrating the wins rather than focusing on what you didn't get accomplished, it can really motivate you, or it motivates me to move forward with another win.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Christine?
Just like a business or an organization would have a board of directors or a board of advisors, do you have a board of directors, a board of advisors in your own life? These would be individuals who are fully knowledgeable about what it is that you're up to and can provide you with the support and guidance that you might need when you are feeling stuck or unmotivated. Identifying those people and actually saying to them, hey, I want you to know that in my life, this is how I see you as on my personal board of advisor. You're a personal board of advisor. You hold that seat in my life. And so when I'm stuck, I really, really need you. That's part of how I stay motivated.
Yeah, I think those are all great. Now, another thing that most of us probably are still dealing with to this day is fear of failure, right? I mean, we all have that. That's just human nature. So how about some tips on how we're dealing with fear of failure and perfectionism? Because we're all trying to be so perfect all the time, and when we're not, it can stop us in our tracks from going after those bigger dreams. So any ideas on how we are working toward that fear of failure and we are avoiding that? Janine, you want to start?
Yes, I love this topic because it's definitely something that is important. And I've learned a couple different acronyms. FEAR is false evidence appearing real. I like that one. And I also like FAIL is faithful attempt in learning. And so I can really struggle with, perfectionism, but I think I've learned to see that like some is better than none. So like I like to walk for 40 minutes typically, but my schedule's been really crazy at certain times. I'm like, you know what, I'm only going to get in 20 minutes, but that's better than nothing, So learning, again, we talked about having grace for ourselves. So knowing that it doesn't have to be perfect, but we're still moving forward on that continuum toward progress.
Yeah, I just removed perfection from my vocabulary. We've been bombarded with that ideal, perfection ideal our whole lives as women. So I don't strive for perfection. I believe in progress over perfection. That's the biggest thing. Giving yourself grace, I think, is a big part of it. And there was something else I forgot, but Christine?
Christine, it's you.
When you really study the lives of people who have innovated and created at a really, really high level, and almost all of their memoirs, biographies, they will say, I embraced every failure because it brought me to the next level of evolution, or it made this product or this service much better. And failure is very difficult for me, but I really do sort of anchor in that. And another thing I like to think about is how important this question is at the end of the day. How did you fail today? Like, imagine if that was something that we asked each other around the dinner table at night. Like, tell me about your day, what was good about your day, and how did you fail, and what did you learn from that? So that we're normalizing failure and not getting stuck and paralyzed by it.
Yeah, that actually reminds me, reframing rejection, because a lot of times what failure is, or what rejection feels like failure, whatever, you ask someone for something, they say no. It feels like a failure. If we can reframe that, whether it be something that we didn't succeed at, and say, what did I learn from that today? What lesson, and is it the same failure over and over again? What lesson is the universe trying to teach me that I just haven't learned yet? And really, I think I love that you just look and say, how did I fail today? What did I get? And then how can I reframe that into an opportunity rather than an obstacle?
I like that a lot. How did I fail today? Because I think if we asked ourselves that question, we may not be able to come up with as much as we were afraid of. Like, for example, I'll embarrass myself for saying this. I was so worried that I was going to call one of them the wrong name. We had a full conversation about it before I got up here. I said, oh, if my nerves kick in and I say Christine instead of Janine when I'm referring to Janine, nobody else would have cared. But I had myself all like, oh gosh, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to fail, and I've never moderated before. And it's in our own heads. And at the end of the day, if I was like, well, what did I fail about today? Even if I did make that small mistake, which I haven't yet, thankfully, I probably wouldn't even be able to point that out as a failure. It would have just been a hiccup along the way, a little misstep. And we're all human, so everybody would have been fine with it. But I was so worried about that. I was like, if I call you the wrong name, I apologize in advance. And I was like making notes here. I know all of them, and we've met. We know each other. I shouldn't call them the wrong name, but we're in our own heads. And I think at the end of the day, we probably would have a hard time pointing out, what did I fail at today? So thank you guys so much. That was wonderful. I am going to open it up to any questions that we might have in the room here. Does anybody have any questions for the panel at all? No? Oh, you were waving. I'm sorry.
On the right.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
How do you handle when you're having success, and the people around you are not reaching the success that you are? How do you continue striving to be successful without offending or coming across as arrogant or, for lack of a better word, snobby? How do you handle that type of situation?
That's such a good question.
It really is.
Yeah?
The first thing that comes to mind as I was listening was raise them up.
Yes.
Raise them up, and don't hold an expectation that they want that same kind of success, but maybe engage them in conversations about maybe things that they may want to do, visions that they're holding that they'd like to bring to life, and how can I help?
Yeah.
But that's what you describe is real.
It is. Yeah. And I'm reminded of that quote, our greatest fear is not our darkness, it's our light. And us hiding our light has never brought anyone else up. The brighter you shine, the brighter we all shine, the brighter we allow others to shine as well. Give them permission to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is challenging. I try to be sensitive to people depending on what's happening in their life. Sometimes I don't share as much. I try to still share somewhat because you want to be hopefully an inspiration. But at the same time, I agree. I can get concerned. Sometimes I want to celebrate, and I love being around like-minded people because then if you're with like-minded people, you can share, and everyone's excited for each other's success. Not everyone is excited, for our success. And I think it's sad, but we just have to, accept that, and we can't control their life, but we still want to live our best life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think I saw another question over here before. Go ahead.
One comment from a standpoint of saying no, This year, I finally said no to something. I gave up doing something that I enjoy, but it just didn't align with where I was going in my time. And part of me was nervous about doing that because it felt like failure. But doing it was so freeing, so I would just suggest saying no is really powerful. And the first time you do it, it's really hard, and then afterwards, it's a godsend. Question for you is, I believe you talked about when you were in your one role, you were no longer happy and you thought about the dog business.
Yeah.
And the doctor, I know you said you were in your job and you said, I'm retiring. How do you get over whether you're content or in something comfortable to push yourself into that next thing?
Yeah. I just go, if we're not growing, we're dying, right? So contentment to me, always grateful, always striving is something I look for. So I am so grateful for everything in my life, every opportunity. I wake up with gratitude. I go to sleep with gratitude. I try to live with it as much as possible. And it's okay for me to want more and to strive and to do something else. And it can look different all the time, and it doesn't have to be a whole new career. It doesn't have to be another level, but it's again, it's a progression towards the highest form of myself, the highest and best form of myself. And I think that's how I get past any contentment. Because sometimes contentment's nice, right? Sometimes, Netflix and chill is not a bad thing once in a while. But for the rest of your life, no. And I ask myself in the morning, there's a thing, one of my mentors says, stop waking up by accident, right? And what am I trading this life for? And I try to remember that. So I'm always striving for a little bit more, although being content sometimes is okay too.
Sometimes these kinds of experiences can feel like, for me anyway, I was jumping out of a plane without the parachute. And one of the things I was always reminded of, because the bigger things I've done in my life, I did closer to my 50s. And the idea of time is very critical. Like, I really understand that I've lived more of my days than I have in front of me. And so that is pretty significant in my life, that thought, and has helped me to move it forward. And also thinking of really having serious thoughts within myself around, what do I want to leave behind? Legacy. What kind of impact do I want to have? I'm running out of time. We all are. Not to be morose.
Yeah,
It's just true.
you have plenty of
Make the
time.
most, make the
Don't
most
delay.
Yeah.
I just think for myself, I've just gotten so irritated with certain things that I've known that I needed to change. So I think if you're still happy and enjoying your life, I think that still says that you're in a good spot. So I don't know. For me, I've always changed out of, things are just bad. I don't want to do this anymore. And I've had to get fed up. So I think sometimes my threshold for patience has been too long. But I think being happy and content is good.
Yeah. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Playing on success, how do you feel when the shoe's on the other foot, when you're comparing yourself to everyone around you and feeling sometimes that, they're so far ahead in other functions? How do you
What?
combat that?
Why are you doing that? Does that belief serve you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, how do you handle it? Well, I ask myself that. I ask myself daily, does this belief serve me? Is this serving me? Comparison is the thief of gratitude, correct? That's, how does that serve me? I also am a big believer. I don't believe in competition very much. I believe amateurs compete and professionals create or collaborate. And one of my favorite sayings to my friends is, you can't compete with me because I want you to succeed too. And rather than comparing myself to others, I'm just like, yeah, girl, you go. Some of my friends are in here. They know I'm a big cheerleader. And it's funny, the more I cheer them on, the better I feel about myself. And that comparison for me and success and I should be there. I should be there. Also, you're young, and that's a wonderful thing. As you get older, too, I think you start to kind of say, there is no should. There is, but why? It doesn't serve you. It just doesn't. It just doesn't serve you. At least it doesn't serve me. And maybe it serves you. I'm sorry. No, but
Christine, you look like you're ready. You're ready to jump on this one.
Yeah, when I'm stressed and overwhelmed, this is how I know it's bad. And I'm on LinkedIn and I'm triggered by these thoughts, like, look at this person, how far ahead they are. That's when I know I'm on overload, and I've got to unplug from that. Because there's a Buddhist principle called sympathetic joy. And sympathetic joy is when we take joy in the success of others. And that is so freeing and is so empowering. And so for example, on another day, looking at LinkedIn and just having so much joy, feeling so much joy for the success of others who are doing things similar to what I'm doing, is such a great feeling. So I lean into that.
I think we have, our own fingerprints. And so we all have our own gifts, and each person is, has their gifts for a reason. And so I would love to be a singer and a dancer on Broadway, but I don't have those gifts.
I don't either. It's okay.
Yeah. So I in middle school, I stopped singing and dancing. At least not in my kitchen, that's still. But I just think that everyone has, but a lot of times I've done that. I've been like, oh, I wish, that was more like me. But I have to keep focused on my own purpose for this life. And that really helps give me peace and excitement, because I know I have everything I need to do whatever I'm supposed to do.
That's great. Thank you. And I think we have time for one more question. Let me check. Hold on. I want to get yelled at here. We got time for one more question. Go ahead.
Have any of you ever had to adapt your dreams based off of reliance on someone else, and if so, how would you handle that?
oh yeah. Hi. Remember that whole 8-year-old was not my dream to be a financial professional? I moved to northeastern Pennsylvania from living in Northern California, which is where I'm from, 5 years ago, January of 2020. Great timing. To care for my mother. She called me, she was 85 years old. She says, hey, honey, I shouldn't be living alone anymore. How do you feel about NEPA? And I'd never lived out here. I'd never lived anywhere this cold in my life. And at the time I said, okay, you get, I lived at home for 18 years. I'll give you 18 years and then you're on your own. She said that gets me to a 103. She could figure things out by then. At that time, I had to give up everything. I was the national sales manager for Tesla Energy. I was, living in a different state. I moved out to a place I knew no one. That was not my dream, to live here, or to do what I was doing. So I got to reinvent myself. I got to come up with a new dream, and I got to say, hey, who do I want to be now? And I want to be community oriented. I want to be a sister to other women. I want to empower other women. I want to make a difference in my community and all these other wonderful things that empower women through financial literacy to be the most they can be. And I got to reinvent myself. And I had to let go of a lot of what I thought my dream was going to be to move forward with who I want to be now. And I just erased the old life script, wrote a new one, and I'm editing it every day.
I love that. If anybody has any additional questions, you can put them in the app, and I know the panel would be thrilled to answer all of them. I'm pretty sure we could still add questions in this panel discussion, because I think I missed a few questions, so I apologize. But just because of time, I want to go down very quickly your quick takeaway or something we didn't add to this discussion and what you want everybody to leave with today. Janine, I'm going to start with you.
Basically, I would encourage you to start a dream journal if you don't have one already. Write down every dream that you have. I have 143 dreams in my dream journal, and some of them are accomplished. The bike ride around Fairmount Park is in there, scratched off with a date. But also to pay attention to where you're at in your life, because I feel like, life gets almost divided up into quarters. Maybe you've heard that. So I'm approaching, the fourth quarter. And, but there's certain dreams you can live out best, when you're under 20, when you're under 40, when you're under 60, and when you're under 80. So I just think it's important to pay attention to where you're at.
I
Thank
love
you.
that. Christine?
I would encourage you to think about the phrase, "Oh, I'll believe it when I see it," and flip it. I will see it when I believe it. You will see it come to pass when you believe it. And to never forget, you deserve, you deserve, you deserve. You deserve the dream in this life. You deserve the dream you hold around love. And you deserve the dream you hold around your own leadership.
Oh, that was so good. That was beautiful. I love it. Well, rather than trying to give different advice, I want to share one of my favorite games with all of you, and I would challenge all of you to play this game on a regular basis. It's called the What If game. And the What If game happens often, sometimes about 3 o'clock in the morning or so, and you wake up and you go, oh, what if I fail? What if this goes wrong tomorrow? What if I call one of the panelists the wrong names?
Not yet.
Right?
Yeah.
What if you don't? What if tomorrow I wake up and I get up on time and I feel good and I'm having a good, what if I have a good hair day tomorrow? What if I get the yes? What if I get the space that I want? What if I get the dream? And when you start to have these doubts that creep in and stuff like that, I challenge you to play the what if game. What if it goes right rather than what if it goes wrong? Because most of the time, you get the right name.
Yeah, I got it. Well, thank you, everybody, so much for joining us today, and thank you to our panel. Good job, ladies.